Top Health and Wellness.
A pleasant good afternoon, everyone. We just want to welcome everybody who is online. I really want to say it's a privilege that you are here, and we want to make sure that we do you justice. We are really Jamaicans, and 6 o'clock really doesn't mean 6 o'clock to everyone. But I'll dawdle for a minute or two, but 6 o'clock means we are going to get started. I just want to let you know that the workshops that we've been having all of the workshops come to you from the Social Outreach Ministry of the Church of God of Prophecy. And we are just trying to make sure that we can add a little to everything that you have prepared. We also want for you to understand that your presenter knows exactly what she's doing, so you don't have to worry. And we don't want to set out to contradict anything that you have been taught. We just want to reinforce what you know. And as a teacher of the subject, a marker of the subject, a syllabus setter, a writer of a textbook, I think I want to tell you that the information you get will be credible. And you have spent some time in module 1 testing validity and credibility and so on. So I wouldn't want for you to worry. We are trusting that, I know based on the other workshops that we've had, I know the time moves quickly, but I want to encourage you to ask any relevant question, anything that would make it a little clearer for you. I'm just going to ask that you ask for clarity so that it will make a difference to you. I'm going to invite you now for prayer, after which I'm going to ask Andre is our technical backup. He's our run-to person, and he will help us in terms of whatever it is that you have written in the chat, or however he can facilitate us. I'm going to ask that you know that he's there right after prayer. I'm going to ask him to run the picture of our island or overseer for Jamaica, who under his auspices we're offering this program. So let us pray. Father, we thank you, Lord, for the opportunity you have given us to share. We thank you for your children who are online. You've told us in your word that you would not have us ignorant. And so we come to seek knowledge. We ask for wisdom as to how to use the knowledge that we get. And we pray, Lord, for alertness. We pray that something will stick. We pray that whatever it is that we know, the Holy Ghost may bring it to our memory and that we may use it wisely. Lord, you know exactly what is on the exam paper. And so help us to be relevant, help us to be focused. And when all of this is over, we shall thank you, Lord, for leading us safely. These and other mercies we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. I'm going to ask Andre just to run the picture for us of our overseer. All right, so the picture that you are looking at on screen is our national overseer, is Bishop Dr. Winston Leaf, and his wife is seated before him. She is Minister Dr. Heidi Leaf. Now, under their auspices, there are more than 300 churches in Jamaica, and we manage under different ministries to reach out. So the ministry that is reaching out to you this afternoon is a church and community. We want to make sure that we contribute to the full development of everyone. And so the leg of education this afternoon is coming from us in order to make sure we are a blessing to you. Thank you so very much, Andre. All right, now without any further delay, I want to get into the paper, and I'm going to focus on paper 2, considering that you know what happened for paper while we only had paper 1 last year. So I'm going to ask Andre to give me permission to share screen, and then I'm going to ask us to move. Remember, any questions as to what is happening? I'm not able to see everybody's name, but I will call out for help in terms of reading and so on. All right, I'm hoping that you can see the screen and we are getting ready to start. Now, because paper 2 is really 2 hours and a little, and you know that this exam is somewhere like the 6th or the 8th of July, all right? So we had 2 weeks that they gave us to make sure that we, according to CAPE, they are trying to make sure that they meet us half the way. But remember that we had one Caribbean country the other day that suffered from the volcanic eruption. They are trying to make some special arrangement for them, but they still have to do the exam. So we don't have anything except COVID. And according to CSEC, the whole world have COVID, and we have to move on. So they didn't send us any paper 2 last year. We have got to be ready for them. According to CAPE, they have not changed the format, but they said that they would try to make sure that all the multiple choice questions that we ran through last year and searched and help us to prepare for the exam, they are trying to make sure that they have new multiple choice questions. But our essay questions will take the same format. So let's get into module 1. You know the 3 modules for Come Study are 1, 2, and 3. 1 being gathering and processing information. All right, so in gathering and processing information, there is an essay on all 3 modules. All right, you will know the names: gathering and processing for module 1. Then module 2, we have language and community. Module 3, we have speaking and writing. So I want to spend a little time on module 1. There are some papers that I have prepared that have some examples. But what I want to do first is to go through what is expected. And if time permits, then I will bring up some examples of what they consider good, solid essays. All right. So in module 1, the examiners give you an expository piece. Now, by the time I get to expository, you know already that I'm asking you about the genre. All right. They will ask you what genre. And even if they do not ask you, you are supposed to tell them, because based on the genre that you have, then when they ask you about strategies and language technique and so on, you are going to need to have them ready. Usually the piece is an expository piece, and it's usually taken from a magazine or a report, your teacher would have told you, go straight down to the bottom of the extract and you will see the source of the extract. If you are well read, then sometimes you will recognize the writer and then you can speak to the credibility. All right. Sometimes it's a magazine or it's a well printed. I remember, I think the last exam they sent, it was from a magazine that they placed on airlines. All right. The Caribbean Beat, or I've seen them use Jamaica Gleaner. I've seen them use the Gazette from Trinidad. And so look at the bottom to see what kind of article it is. And once you know what kind of article, you will begin to find out how you build that article. All right. Then it talks about an important issue and uses factual information such as statistics and official sources and stuff to relay the information. So when you get here, there is no other module that asks you for an essay like this one. You have to be prepared to write an essay in about 500 words for this one. All right, so you have to know. All right, now also in module 1, the question usually has 2 parts, but they don't have to, it doesn't have to be 2 parts. They can vary it. All right, they can vary the 2 parts. All right, they usually ask us either for a summary, or they can ask us for a main idea, or they can ask us for a purpose. All right, and then they will say to you after that, write an essay, okay, of more than 500 words. So sometimes there are 2 parts to the question. Follow the questions clearly, because when we look at what you do, we will know whether or not you understand. And following instructions, interpreting your question is a part of the answer. All right. So they can ask you for the summary, or they can ask you for the writer's main point, or they can ask you for the writer's purpose. And then below that, they can say to you, write an essay. Usually, if they ask you in part 1 for something, they will tell you in about 30 words or so. All right. Or the most they will ever ask for in all my years would be 50 words, and that would be a summary of what they've given to you. So you know that the very first thing that you're going to do, you're going to read, you're going to get an understanding of the passage, you are going to know what kind of genre it is, what type of discourse. You know that you have 4 main discourses, but they can be mixed. So you have your factual, you have your persuasive, you have your descriptive, you have your argumentative, and of course, they can be mixed. You can have a factual passage, a persuasive passage that uses facts. You can have an expository passage that has description in it. So your reading and interpreting have got to make sure that you understand. Then you are looking at 500 words. What I want you to do is to look at an essay that you write and see where 500 words get you. Remember that the exam sheets are a little longer than your regular folder paper. So if you write 2 pages on your folder paper, maybe you need 2.5 to get your 500 words. When you do not fulfill that obligation, they take away the marks from organization. So your essay is marked out of content. It's marked for content, expression, and organization. Word limit falls under organization. And if they are taking away marks, then understand that you can write a beautiful thing with content, you know. But if your expression, if you don't know standard English, if your sentences are run on, all right, if you have sentences that are ambiguous, although you get a good mark at content, you are going to lose the mark at expression and organization. So we want to make sure that that doesn't happen, all right? Then they ask you for the writer's main purpose. Now, the writer's main purpose is what the writer is trying to do as they sit down to write. Why are they writing the piece? Is it to entertain? Is it to inform? Is it to ridicule? Is it to satirize? Is it to sensitize? All your purpose, when you are answering purpose, you must use the word to. The infinitive will answer what they're asking. So the writer's purpose is to highlight, is to inform others about the discrimination for women, is to highlight the areas of deficiency, is to emphasize, is to ridicule. So you have to know, and basically when you are going to answer purpose, you've got to know the purpose of language. So you go back to language, students. You go back to the characteristics of language, and you have about 6 of those. You go back to the purpose of language, and you have about 7 of those. And then you go to the purpose, and you have numberless quality, depending on what you write. Is it to complain? Is it to inform? Is it to build a foundation? Is it to sensitize? Is it to humor persons? So there are so many things, but you have got to answer come studies. Your language must become studies. All right? You must use the term that we are given in come studies. And then we have to make sure that we know that. Remember some of the functions for language? One of the most obvious is to communicate. Then you have the reflective function. Then you have the ritualistic function. All right, so you remember things. Then you inform. All right, so you can quickly just look at that and make sure that when you're answering, you're using your knowledge of com studies to answer. Now, my last bullet on this point says, the writer's purpose. What is the writer's purpose? And your purpose is to tell us about the dangers of energy drink. All right, suppose we did a research and we give some sheep some energy drink, and the passage is about that. What we need to do is to say, what is it the writer hoped to achieve? What is it that is going to follow the two? All right? And I have hardly ever seen a question 1, a module 1, that does not ask us for the purpose. I've hardly ever seen that. So you have to go make sure that you are ready for that. All right? Now, the writer's main point. The writer's main point. Now, a lot of people confuse the purpose with what he's saying. Remember that the purpose is to, but the main point is what? It is what you call a theme. What is the theme of his passage? What is he talking about? So the main point could be that energy drink cause reproductive malfunctions in sheep, all right? And should be banned from the farms. That is what he's talking about. But when we looked back on the purpose, we saw that his purpose was to tell. His purpose was to inform. His purpose was trying to make sure that you understand. So the main point is the what, and the purpose is the why. Why am I writing this? What is my aim? Who am I trying? Where is my audience? Who am I trying to get to? So you must have purpose. By now, your SBAs are in. But one of the first questions you were asked in your introduction, first you were asked, what is the theme? So the theme would have been your main idea. Your main point would have been your theme. Then they say to you, what is the purpose? And you had to come, if you were writing about gender bias in cockroaches, what you would want to do is to inform householders, is to sensitize the general public that roaches behave differently depending on their gender. And so means of getting rid of them differ according to to their gender. That is the two. But the what is roaches behave according to their gender? Well, of course, you know, no go so. But I just want to make sure that you understand. Main point is theme. Purpose is what you expect to achieve by looking at the main point. Okay? Going to be moving on. And then we are looking at a summary of what you have. I'm sorry. Now, understand, guys, you cannot summarize something that you don't understand. You cannot summarize a passage. You learned that last year at fifth form. When you are going to do your summary, you've got to have a basic idea of what the passage is about. And then you've got to curtail, you've got to cut down, you have to take out repetition, and then give them a brief idea. So they may have nearly 300 words on the page. But when you are finished, you have about 50 or so. And if they want a summary, they will tell you how many words they want you to give them. Now you need to remember that the summary is a concise review of what the writer wrote. So nobody spend your time doing no comprehension permit, quoting and taking out examples. And no, remember that the word summary speaks to certain skills. The S in summary is to shorten. The U in summary is to understand the original passage. The first M is main ideas are a must. The next M is your writing mode. You have to make sure you keep that. Then we have our A, which means avoid repetition, avoid statistics, avoid details, avoid direct speech. So many things that you have to avoid in order to make sure that it is shortened. And then the Y says, keep it in your own words. That is summary. That is summary. So if you're going to put it in your own words, it means you're going to paraphrase. It means that you're going to use one word instead of 6 words. It means that you know collective nouns. So you won't put everything on page when you can use one collective noun. So once you say crowd, you don't have to say, oh, a vast number of persons gathered in the screen. No, that would be repetition. That would be redundant. So you make sure that you paraphrase, you use your own words as far as possible. Moving right along. Now, this is a section that a lot of us are interested in. This is a section that every paper asks for. And if they don't ask for it, you must tell them. Now they want language techniques and strategies. They also want organizational strategies, but I think that is coming next. What is your language techniques? Remember when you did your SBA, reflection 2 asks you about language strategies. They want to know what is it that the writer used in language to get their point across. What are the techniques that are obvious when you read the passage? And sometimes they're not so obvious enough. You need to have a knowledge of them that when you go in the exam, once you go in the exam and you see it, you are very able to recognize them. How do you write your essay? I like to tell my students that we use the acronym P-E-E. You point it out. You give an example of it. And then you speak to how effective it is. It makes no sense if it's in the passage of 3 similes. You go in there and say, oh, the writer uses simile. Yeah. Find the simile then speak to how effective. Nothing is as beautiful as a girl in spring. That is what the passage have. So you are going to take that out and say the writer makes use of similes in the passage where he compares the protagonist and finds that there is nobody else in the world as beautiful as she is. Simile is effective because he wants to single her out as being unique in her beauty. So you feel right. No matter tell we say there is a simile in line 6 and it is comparing the girl with spring. Oh no, that's a lie. You're going to have to make sure that once you identify the piece, then you are good with it. All right. And if you find a metaphor and you can't explain the metaphor, choose a different one. Choose a different one. Because your marks come in the area where you are able to explain its effectiveness. So when you read the passage and it says, when electricity went in the community, a blanket of darkness covered everywhere. The writer uses a metaphor. Here he compares the thickness of the darkness with the thickness of a blanket. Usually the blanket covers out all elements of cold. It therefore means that the darkness was of such depth that persons were afraid. You see what me and talk say? You name it, you give the example, and then you express its effectiveness. All right? So you need to be able to name the technique that is used. You need to say what it is doing. All right? Every figure of speech belongs to language. You have to know what a figure of speech does. You have to know what are the sound devices. That's alliteration, that's onomatopoeia, that's assonance, and personification to some extent is what you call a comparison. Those were the sound devices, but you also have 3 comparisons. You have the simile, or everybody knows the simile. You have the metaphor. More persons are familiar, but have a little bit more difficulty explaining. Personification is also another means of comparison, except this time, whatever element is used to compare brings one entity into being a person. All right? So if the clouds were pregnant, then you know that is personification. And you're speaking to the fact that they were so heavy. Visually, they were as large as a woman who was pregnant, but it also suggests that in the same way a pregnant woman gives birth, the clouds would be ready to give birth to the rain. You see me, man? And so you are ready to explain. You are articulate. When I pick up your paper, well, I don't know if you, because it's only numbers I get. When I pick up your paper to mark, it gives me a pleasure to mark. But when you, if, but, and maybe, we start lose your marks from this, to say, you know, this student don't know what he's talking about. And you have 2 more essays to go. So, you know, we're not enthused at all. All right, let's move to the other one. Now, if you use statistics, then you can say it makes the thing easy to comprehend. Quantitative information that you are given, all right? Quantitative speaks to the amount. Qualitative speaks to the condition, all right? I want you to understand, students, that the moment the writer says 40% of the population belongs to so on and so forth, the moment they give you a statistic, then you are beginning to look for credible information, because we're assuming that once we see the statistics, some measurement was taken somewhere. Something was done. You learned in this module that we do a research, we gather information, we process information. when we quote a source, that is also another example of the techniques. But we have to quote sources that are reliable. That means we can look at where they are coming from, look at how they're associated. We look at information that comes in the Observer or the Gleaner, and we will say it is credible because you can speak to the Gleaner as a medium. You can speak to the fact that the Gleaner is over 130 odd years old. You can speak to the fact that the Observer is only 27 years old, but it has been given numerous prizes and accolades because of the accuracy. You speak to the fact that these newspapers have editors. They do not print anonymous articles, or they have to test the integrity. You have to understand, gentlemen, that, I'm sorry, everyone, you have to understand that they can be sued. So they make sure that whatever information they have comes from credible. And because of that, and how long they have been running, and there's no disrepute, then we can speak to something that is published. All right? But you're also going to have to look at the validity. And you know, I normally say to students, how early did you get your passport? And if they get their passport when they were 8 years old, it means that they can't use that passport now. It's invalid. So the currency of the article, meaning the time factor that you have the article, you can speak to that when you are looking at the material that they give you. You can look if they use hyperbole. And hyperbole, it exaggerates. It is not exaggeration. It named hyperbole. It is spelled hyperbole. But when a writer uses hyperbole, he's usually moving into emphasis. He's usually overstating a situation so that you get an element of the truth. Everybody who drives on the North and South Highway must be rich. It costs so much. So we hear a little bit of sarcasm there, but we also know that when they're going to tell us about everybody, it can't be true. We have an idea that it's a lot of persons, but it can't be everybody, okay? Now, rhetorical question is also one of the most popular technique that is used. And a rhetorical question is not a question that doesn't require an answer. That is not what it is. That's a part of the answer. Also understand that when you write, identify these things. You are not expected to define them. You're expected to move in the passage with confidence, pull out a sample, point out what it is, and say what purpose it serves. We don't want any definition. By the time you define what is alliteration, half of the essay done. And it doesn't answer you. So you need to speak to the purpose. The rhetorical question helps with provoking your thoughts. It brings something to your attention. You are able to decide where the passage is going to go, depending on the quality of the rhetorical question. Alliteration, I mentioned that before, as sound device, all right? And depending on where you use it, it can create a rhythm. But alliteration and onomatopoeia and assonance, they are excellent language strategies to help you to memorize, help you to call things to your memory, help you to remember. You have to know these, gentlemen, ladies. You have to know, ladies, you've got to understand that you can't just say paragraph 1 opens with a rhetorical question. Fewer. That's what we want you to know. We want you to tell us what purpose it serves. And then juxtaposition. The juxtaposition means that we have one thing on one side, we have the other thing facing it, and we create a contrast. It's a little bit like antithesis, a series of contrasts, all right? So we pose one thing here. Let's buy a flying motor car. The flying motor car is so and so and so and so and so very future. When you look at the ordinary mobile that uses gas and gets trapped in traffic, see what I'm doing? I'm juxtaposing. I'm putting one up against the other so that it creates a contrast and it highlights the idea I want to talk about. And then you know personification. Just a few examples. And what they do, you should be versed in this. Moving right along. Now, strategy. When a person sits down to write, a person decides what he's writing about. That's one of the things that you have to do. You have to know what you're writing about. You can't just get up and start, right? And then in the middle of it says, oh man, this is what I'm writing about. It means that you might have to go back to the top and get rid of some of the things. You know, like when some persons used to write a story, were asked to write a story, you never know how to start at all. And you do on and you go on and you go on and you go on until finally you come up with a paragraph and it sounds like the story begins. Then you have to go back to the top and throw away all those beating around the bush and move with the story now. So a writer sits down and he says, I'm going to do this. How am I going to send this across? And then he starts to put himself in a position, how he wants you to think. And he decides, all right, I think I might use rhetorical questions. I think I might just be able to choose my tone. Depending on the tone that I use, my readers, they might just be angry with me. They might just share sympathy with me. The writer's tone can be sarcastic. The writer's tone can be very happy. He can be ironic. He can just be conversational, informal. And by using the tone, he creates an atmosphere. And so he's reaching out to you and he's getting said what needs to be said. I have seen them ask tone a number of times. Search for it, hear it, hear it. Now, everybody on this platform knows what we mean about language registers. Every last one of you. You know that is not the book that the teacher mark your name in I'm talking about. So you are speaking about the formality of the language. And you also know that there are about 5 registers. So when you look in the passage, once they ask you about register, you are going to look to see what is there. Formal register. You're going to look at the casual register. You could look at the consultative register. You could look at frozen and you could look at intimate. I hear you all saying them with me, so I'm going to back up. You could look at intimate, frozen, consultative, casual, or formal. Depending on the context that you have, you are going to determine what register. And if it's probably module 2, they will ask you about dialectical variation too. And your variation is going to be linked closely to your register. But I really have never seen them ask about dialectic variation in module 1. Module 1 tends to be expository, very formal. So your register there could be formal, all right? But you don't decide on register until you see the passage, all right? All right, I just ran through these. So I'm going to skip this slide in terms of the types of register that you have. All right. And then I don't know when they have not asked us about organizational strategies. When him sit down to write, how him decide that he's going to write. Here are a few, and there are many more. But if you don't know any of them at all, you can take all of these because they don't want more than 3. I have never, well, everything have a new time, but I've never seen them answer more than 3. So I would say with you, go in with a few, and then you are not just going to mention the strategies out of your head, you know. You are going to look in the passage if it's there. So, order of importance, that is the chronology of the passage. What comes first, what comes next, and so on. Then, logical sequence, linkages. Those are what you call your connectives. You know, so if the passage says initially, then secondly, and then on the other hand, or something like that, you make sure, if you look and you see them, you use organizational strategy to point out. Comparison and contrast, that's a strategy. So they show you the similarities and they show you the differences. You look in the passage, if that is happening, then you know that comparison and contrast is one of the strategies. You also have the problem solution strategy. If they are writing about flooding, they will probably spend 2 paragraphs talking about this flooding, and then they would probably spend a last long paragraph talking about the solution that the powers that be are putting in place. And so some essays are built on that kind of organization. So you have the comparison and contrast, you have the problem and solution, you have the sequencing, you have cause and effect, and all of them have their different purposes and they are used. So although you know them, you go in the exam, read the passage and see which one of those help, see which one is showing you what you need to know, all right? That's it. That's what they want for module 1. That is what they want for module 1. And so I will say to you, you need to have in your artillery, you need to pack, you need to have them ready. Anything that they can ask you, come up with it. All right? I'm going to stop sharing this one now, and I'm going to wait to see whether or not you have any questions on this one. All right? Any questions?
Miss, good night. Good evening,
night,
sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I was from the English B class and you promised to send the PowerPoint. I didn't receive it.
What you are doing a come studies group?
Because I do English A from in grade 10, so I'm doing com studies in grade 11.
All right, now who is talking to me? What is your name?
Erica Thompson.
Erica, you sent your email address?
Yes, miss.
All right. My apologies. I was sending to you right now. All right. So Mrs. Lee can continue. All right. I was sending to you. What's the name again? Erica Thomas. What's the name?
Erica Thompson.
All right. No problem.
All right, Erica. I really, you have technique, man. You have strategy. You're not waiting until it finishes and then you don't get it. Good girl. But I also want to make sure that everybody who has something to ask, everybody, you stop and ask and let us address it so that you have an idea where we're going. Are there any other questions? Well, Erica, question really wasn't about module 1. All right, so go right ahead. Hands are raised. April?
Yes, miss, I just had a clarification about the juxtaposition.
Yes.
Would you say it's just like comparison of like 2 things?
It's more contrast than comparison.
Okay.
You know, if I juxtapose your work, if I'm writing and I show them an example of your work that has a feminine appeal, I could hold up, I don't know if Galaxy J2 is a boy. If he's a boy, I could hold up his, and he is going in the opposite direction. And so I juxtapose. You remember when you wrote your persuasive or your argumentative in fifth form, you remember that you have to give a counter argument. So if they say for or against for your persuasive and you are supporting it, then I find, is that Dominic? I find Dominic who is saying to me, I am opposing it. Now, if I put both of them face to face, then that's juxtaposition. All right? That's not the similarities I'm trying to identify there. Okay?
Oh, okay. Thank you.
All right, very good. There's another idea that comes close to that, you know, April. There's the idea that is called antithesis. An antithesis will give you a whole series of contrasts, all right? But those three tend to use opposites, you know, if Martin Luther King, if you got a speech from Martin Luther King, he would say something like, from the mountains to the rivers, from all blacks to the whites, all tall and short. He never said no tall or short, you don't believe me. But I'm just trying to show you that where there's a series of contrasts, that is also, that can also be used, that is antithesis. All right? Go ahead, Dominic.
Good night, Miss.
Yes, sir.
Miss, if you use compare and contrast as a language strategy, can you then use it as an organizational strategy, or they won't give you the mark for that?
No, we would say if you use it as organizational strategy, Platt, what's going to happen is that up right throughout the essay, let's say they give you a passage with about 6 passages, then maybe 4. Let's just say that the passage is about water shortage in the Americas, okay? When you look at the passage, you must look and see definitely that a section now is showing you that there is no water for sewage, the rivers are running dry, whatever water is not clean or so on. Those are the problems, all right? So if you come down the bottom now and you see answers, you know it's problem and solution. If they tell you at the top that because of something another at the top of the river, and because of this and the cause of this, and 2 or so paragraph, then the bottom they will say, so many people are suffering from malnutrition, so many people are suffering from water shortage, and so many people are suffering from poisoning. Then you are looking at cause and effect. So what you do, you look at what they use to give us the cause and effect. So you separate the organizational from the language strategy. So maybe because a paradox takes in contrast, you can use the organizational strategy for comparison and contrast, but you can use a simile to show it, or you can use, you use any one of the comparisons that's going to highlight the similarities or the differences based on that. All right? I'm not sure. Amanda, your hand is up.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, love.
I sent my email in the chat. Will we receive the PowerPoints that you just presented?
I never planned to. These are from the PowerPoints, but if you want them, we can send them.
Okay, no problem.
Andrea asked people to put in their email addresses.
Yes, I'm there. I'm seeing the email address, but just to note also that this is on YouTube. This is whatever is being taught here is reflected on YouTube. So that is a place you can go back for reference if needed.
Okay, please can you share the link in the chat, because I didn't know about that.
All right, I will do. No problem.
Thank you.
No problem. Amanda, you have a question?
I just asked about the PowerPoint.
Oh, you are Amanda. Simone?
Excuse, miss.
Yes, go ahead. Your hand is up.
I wanted to know if we were going to touch on the structures of the module essays.
Of the what?
Like the format of the module essays.
Oh,
Are we going to
yes,
touch
well,
on that?
Great point, Simone.
yeah, I am going through all three. So I just want to make sure I'm going to move to module 2 next. And then I have a sample. I'm just hoping I have the time. Okay?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
Miss.
Thank you,
Good
Miss.
girl.
Thanks much.
All right. Any other question? I can go to module 2 now.
Yes, please.
All right. So I'm going to go to module 2. I'm not as fast as you are. So I'm going to close my mic a little bit and start sharing from that side. Okay?
Thanks, Miss.
All right, now I'm back and we want to be looking now at the module 2. I don't mind if anybody wants to sort of pitch in or ask or say, Miss, how that S looks so, I never hear about it so from a born, I don't have any problem. All right, so you can know the questions and I'm trying to move because I want to get through all of them. And I really had power packed. We are almost an hour in. And I'm trying to make sure that we get it. All right. So I am going to now start deciding for module 2. All right, just give me a minute. All right, now module 2, you know already, is called language and community. And in language and community, again, they give us a passage. In module 1, they give us a passage and then they ask us all the questions I just went through. In module 2, they give us another passage. Now, in the passage, usually there is some kind of dialogue because they are going to be looking at the use of language. All right? What I want you to understand is that in this module, we look at the different Caribbean countries. We look at persons' attitude to the languages they use. We look at the standard language. We look at the minor languages. We look at the Creoles, and we look at people's attitude toward them. We look at dialectical variations. Now, here in Jamaica, we are monolingual, but we speak on a continuum. So our variations give us 3 things. We have the acrolect, we have the maselect, and we have the baselect. All right? All of what you see happening, every Caribbean country has some kind of Creole, but there's no Caribbean country that the dialect, the Creole that is spoken is dead exactly. So when they set some questions in the exam, they make sure to use the meselect because the meselect for any country is understood by outsiders. Acrolect is where you come closest to the standard. The meselect is recognizable by non-natives. You probably drop off an ending consonant, or you might add a beginning consonant, or in a sentence, you might drop out an auxiliary verb. but we have that. We might not have the standard words pronounced as exactly as it is in the standard, but it can be read. Can you imagine if they put a poem that is totally Jamaican and in Bassilet? What would the rest of the Caribbean do? They would cry foul, and CSEC would be in trouble. So they expect us to know the variation. They expect us to know the phonology, how the words sound. So when you're on the bus and you get a new phone, you don't tell people what you get the F. All right? How the word is pronounced speaks to a large extent what we have in our Creoles. The morphology, how the words are formed. You know, when you watch these little cartoons and you see the figures morphing, changing into something else, you need to be able to be comfortable with that about any language. Listen, my students, I want to make sure that when you write these essays, you use the technical terms. You use the terms so that these people know that you know Module 2. They know that you understand what you're talking about. In attitudes to language, we split that in two ways. We have positive attitudes, we have negative attitudes. But I am warning you, students, don't go in the exam to say he has a negative attitude towards the language. Say what the negative attitude is. Say he's scornful. Say he ridicules. Say that he's embarrassed. Say what it is that you are calling negative and positive, but we don't understand. Examples of positive attitude is pride, sense of patriotism, a sense of culture freedom, a sense of confidence, awareness. These are positive things. But you don't just write him have a positive attitude, for we don't know which one names so. You name them. So we either accept the language or we reject the language. We scorn the language. All right? And then you have two major areas, convergence or divergence. Convergence means when you hear the language, whether it is standard or it is Creole, when you hear it, you move towards using it. That's convergence. But divergence on the opposite side, and little one who we just spoke, April, here is a little bit of a kind of juxtapose. Because if you have convergence, and I show you how, and on the other hand, I have divergence, which means it no matter how you say it, I am not using it. I don't want to hear it, or I can hear it, but I am not, you're not pulling me in. Convergence means, boy, it sounds so nice. All right, you ever tried to teach somebody a line or two of Creole, and they're trying to say it, and once they want to say it and they get it, that's convergence. They come in on the language. But divergence, oh man, those of you who did literature, you remember that little boy whose parents kept him from children who were rough. He wants to play with them so badly. He wants to play with them, but they tease him and they mock him and his parents keep him inside. So if it is that he looks and they're swinging him on tree limb from tree limb and swimming in branches, and he loves to see them, but he said, boy, me can't do it. That's divergence. You are looking at it. You don't mind see other people doing it, but you're not doing it. All right? And you can not do it because you don't like it, or you may not do it because you like to hear it, but you don't think it's for you. So those are attitudes to language. And remember, you remember that in this area, that is where they are going to ask. Now, the big to do about Module 2 is that they will ask you about factors affecting the choice of language. Now, this is a big, long area. All right? Factors affecting the choice of language. Well, your teacher spent some time and you spend, there are many factors. I listed about 2. Education is one of those factors. And you can rightly explain. All right, now when some of you did your analysis for your SBA. When you allowed some people to use the Baselect or the Meselect, you said that it was appropriate because of the educational status of the person, spoke to the fact that they were not accustomed to the learned language. They understood it, but they wouldn't use it very well. Then you can look at persons who use the language erudite, educational level, persons with technical terms. It's based on their education. So looking at the language that they put in the passage, you are going to speak to a factor. You hear a little 5-year-old boy telling you about the transmission in the car. Daddy looked at the carburetor. Clearly that child's background. You might have somebody in his yard would do that. And so his education is informal, but he learns it because of his background setting. So when you look in a passage, you can look and see what is affecting. And you are not to guess. You are not to guess. You are to look and see. Historically, I met with a group yesterday and I was telling the group, I said, every Caribbean country has one common thing in their history, and that is the transatlantic slave movement. Slavery as an institution impacted every Caribbean country. Our world powers then were the British. Then we had the Spanish, we had the French, and we had the Dutch. They were the ones who went into the Caribbean, came in the Caribbean and colonized them. So when you look at language situation in the Caribbean, every Caribbean country has one of these. Jamaica have some Spanish words because the Spanish were here first. Then the British came in 1655 and whopped them out. That is why our primary language now is English. But because the Spanish were here, we have words like Ocherias and San Diego de la Vega and Spanish Town and Excalibur. And I don't know if you have any face a Jamaican near Excalibur, but you do know, all right? You do know that Ocherias is 8 heads, all right? You do know that Port Estúbal comes from the Spanish, but the English took over. And so that is a factor. When you go to Suriname, it's the Dutch that had power over them. When you go to St. Lucia, the French had power over them. When you go to Trinidad, Trinidad have about 17 languages, minor and major languages. The Chinese were there in great number. So Chinese is one of their minor languages. Historically, we came out of slavery. And as a result, we have some words that come from Africa. We have some words that we learned because of the Middle Passage. But let me go on to culture. All right, your choice of language can depend on cultural elements. You have a dance and it gives you certain words, it gets into your language. You have a food that is cooked in a particular way. Food is a part of our language. I don't know how many Caribbean country would know that we have a fish, a tinned mackerel, what they call dirty girl. And understand that it's a regular, it's a word that is used. When I found out, I nearly fasted. You understand? Because I know tinned mackerel. But I also know it is not people's main Sunday dinner. So the culture, chicken back is called ghetto steak. How many countries have that? It's the culture that give rise to that. You understand? I went to one, I don't remember if it's Barbados I went, and we went into a little store, a number of students from UWI, and we bought some pear in the market, and they saw this little side shop, and they saw some bulla. So you know in Jamaica, bulla and pear is rightly long before them used to sell patty, cheese patty. When we were going to school, we buy the patty and put cheese in it. Long time ago. So some items coming on. When we go in the shop and ask them to sell us a bulla, because a bulla, we call it a Jamaica, we have to run because the shopkeeper come out with a machete. It's long after now. We don't understand why we're running, but we run, somebody say, and the man start cuss you, daddy chat too much, your daddy chat too much. It's that time students we're hearing that is a term for homosexuality. Because culturally, we don't, you tell me about fish. You tell me about anally fixated. You tell me about those things. Our culture support our choice of language, all right? And then migration goes without saying. Migration goes without saying. Any country in the world. You know, students, recently, one of my little ones came back from China. China offered them scholarship while they were at the university. And she went up and spent about 2 years in China. You know that as a result, there is quite a bit of Chinese that she speaks. When there's a number on her phone that when you ring it, is a Chinese response. Migration does that for you. If you have your foreign cousin, them when they come down and they're spending summer with you, they are going to learn some words from here and they are going to take it back. And if they use it, then the factor that caused it is migration, is traveling. So those are some of the factors. There's a few of the factors that affect the choice of language that we use. I must hurry and tell you that almost every essay that comes in module 2 asks you to create a video. And so your videos are going to depend on your nonverbals. You don't just create a video because they say to you, create a video. You have to remember that there's a section on the syllabus that asks you for communication and technology. So a video now is your nonverbals. You are going to appeal to the audio and to the visual. So why would you turn it? So that, you don't tell me that so that you can see, yeah, it name visual. So that's no news. But if you pull for your vocalics, you can tell them that in the video, they can hear the tone of the person's voice. They can hear the sound of crying. They can hear sarcasm, depending on what the passage has. Your video has a sound quality. All right? But when you get to the visual parts, then your gestures, facial expression, your proximities in terms of the use of space, your clothes, your colors, the background, all of that speaks to the value of creating a video, and they ask for that almost all the time. You need to know what your technology does to a piece that is put down in front of you. Somebody is limping. Then you focus the camera, you have close-up shots. This is what you are telling them in your essay. And you speak to the fact that it enhances. The meanings come across to you. Because when you learned your nonverbals, you knew that that was communication largely without words. Now this one have the communication without words, plus it has an audio quality. And so you are asked to look there. All right? I'm going to go up now. Can you just hold any question on module 2? Let me run to module 3. I am a little worried about the time. Let me run to module 3, and then you can ask me anything. Or maybe let me go back. No, let me go back. All right. Any questions on the module 2?
I have a question. Is it likely for the Cape to integrate languages that are outside of the Creole continuum in the extract?
No, son. They are going to give you the Mesolets because depending on the syllabus, and I'm a syllabus setter, and your syllabus is your first authority. Even if your teacher have not taught it, you must look in the syllabus to see, because they can pull something from the syllabus that you never see from the day you're born because your teacher never do it. But the fact is you are supposed to read your syllabus. Okay? So what they will do, they will give you standard English. All right? Now, if you don't know which country the standard is, then you say Caribbean Standard English. Or you can say standard English. Make sure that you understand that you know the acrolate different from the mesolate as different from the basilect. And you know why it is chosen. All right? You know why it is chosen. Very often, these different varieties depend on your education. It depends on relationship with the person you are talking. It depends on the topic that you are talking about. It depends on the mood the person is in. You know, if you are using basilect, my son, if you are using basilect and somebody is really upset with you, you really can't use basilect and it not go to physical enough. Basilect is passionate and it moves very quickly, very, very quickly to physical. When you use the acrolate, you are in the least passionate state. Looking at the three on the continuum, the basilect pushes you into passion. So if in the passage, the persons are quarreling and somebody shouts, nobody don't bother me. You hear me say, don't bother me before I get bad today. No, when you look at it, you will realize now that that is not mesolect. But your reason for choosing that, you're not even sure about the person's education, unless at the top the person was using the acrolate. But the passion and the anger forces the language, and there is a certain immediacy. There is an orality in the basilect that captures anger. And so it effectively portrays the person's emotion. It's your ability to talk to them, son. It's your ability to tell them. But they won't single out a particular country and give you their deepest. They will give you mesolect because you can recognize mesolect. Look at the bottom of the extract. Look if you see where the passage is set. Then you know it's Trinidad Standard English or Barbados English. But if you're sure it's a standard, then you can say it's a standard. Or you can say the variety is the mesolect. All right? Hope that answers. Next question, please. Any other question on this module? All right, so I can move to the other module. Now, the other module is the speaking and writing module. And depending on how your teacher introduced you to the subject, this module is perhaps the first module that you did. It is the first module usually that teachers take on because in this module, you have the process of communication. Any question they give you in this section is going to examine the process of communication. Elements of communication, there are fogging mosquitoes outside, so that's the noise you hear. My apologies, please. I think they are moving along. All right. Yes. Now, any question they give you in this section, ask you to write an essay. They do not give you an essay. Module 1, they want an essay of 500. Module 2, they want an essay of 500. Module 3, they realize now that you are probably tired. And so usually the third module, they sometimes ask you to give them 300 words. They don't do it all the time, but usually you have fewer words in this one, but you have to come up with it. The other one, they come up with the essay and you have to answer. This one, they give you a question and you have to answer. So I'm going to take a break now and I'm going to ask somebody to read the question for me. May I have a volunteer, please?
As a recent participant in the Travel and Earn program, which gives grade 12 students the opportunity to travel, as a recent participant in the Travel and Earn program, which gives grade 12 students the opportunity to travel to other cities and work for the summer while making a contribution to national life, you are chosen as a local school representative to promote the program. In an essay of no more than 300 words, discuss the plan of action that you propose to undertake to promote this program to students and parents in your school for the upcoming summer. Your plan must include the following.
Go ahead, Fabi. All of us have somebody in the background. Never mind, man. Go ahead.
3 different types of rhetorical appeal for reaching persons who have doubts about the program. 3 promotional strategies for communicating the message to your target audience. 1 language register and 1 dialect variety that would be considered appropriate for one of your audience.
Thank you so very much, Mom. Thanks a lot. Now I'm going to ask, does anybody know anything about the Travel and Earn program? Anybody can share anything with us about it?
Is that the program where you go to?
I'm sorry, somebody spoke, but I didn't hear clearly.
I was just wondering if that's the program where you go to another country and work for a while and make some money. Is that the program that you're talking about?
Yes, son, but do you know that the program exists?
Yeah, I do.
Very good. Now, what I'm trying to, why I asked the question is that module 3 tends to ask us about current things. They ask you to do all sorts of things, but it's based on current things. Now, a number of students have no idea about this program. It's simply, I think, largely because the grade 12 students don't go on this program too much. Usually the students in the university grab up this program. But if you know the program, then you can write more readily. If you don't know the program, you have to draw the information from what is on the page. So hear what they say. You are a recent participant. This is a question on the 2019 paper, I think. It's the last question, last essay question that they had asked. So let's say you are a recent participant in the Travel and Earn program. And they say the Travel and Earn program gives students the opportunity to go to other places and work during the summer. Now you understand why it is more popular with the students in the universities, because they get summer from the ending of March. So they spend almost 6 months and they earn their money, pay their school fee when they come back, and they are set for the rest of the year. Now, they could not have gone last year, all right? They could not have gone during the year of the pandemic. And as a result, a number of students at the university could not pay for their tuition. So this program has benefits. So they are saying to you, show the benefits, show how it contributes to your nation. You want to be able to talk knowledgeably about the contribution to national life. And how do you contribute to national life when you go away and work on that? Then you represent Jamaica. Then your skills have gone abroad. Then you share your brain, and rather than have a brain drain later on, they see you as a set of persons with some skills. When you carry back the money, tax is taken from it. And so you make your contribution to national life. You encourage employment. And when they go and learn, you establish your own business that is creating for you opportunities for work and employment, that is creating for you a situation where the government is not burdened. So students, you have to think, all right? So if you have an idea about it, then it's good to go. Then they say to you, in an essay of no more than 300 words, you need to share this, promote this program, tell students and parents you want some more children to go. All right? So, how do you plan to promote it? Anybody can tell me about promotional strategy?
Social media.
Yes, Kendall.
Social media.
Yes, as the person was saying before, we could use social media to promote it. We could create flyers and do posters and place them in strategical places like bus parks, near school compounds where students can actually see them and notice them. We would use bright, flashy colors to grab their attention and use words that are popular, slogans to really captivate them into wanting to read the poster that we will put up.
All right, I think that your ideas are very good. I also want for you to be a little so specific. Your promotional strategies, considering that all of you are using your technologies. What are some name this instead of just saying social media? Name the areas that you would use. We don't give you marks like that. When you are specific, we give you the mark when we see how relevant.
Okay, Miss.
So take me back. Take me back to some of those platforms. Name some of them.
Miss, you could use Instagram and maybe find a way to get it in the YouTube ads.
Yes, man. Listen, you see if you're even wrong, that's nothing. That is one way that we done, but you are right. So share, make we get the whole of them, man. So, yes.
On Facebook, Miss.
Good. Tell me more. Creating of blogs. Tell me more.
Twitter, Miss. Twitter.
Miss Lyons.
When you get to writing, students, be specific. You know the word is something them. So be specific. That is how you are going to promote it. But in your promotion now, you have to look carefully. Now, if I were writing this and if this were this year, my promotional strategies, I would mention the first thing me would have want to do. I meet the people them face to face. It's a big something this, you know. You can't go tell parents if you take up them children, send them go abroad. So they would want to know They would want to hear, you can't send one flyer, go on bus stop and expect them to follow you. You would use those flyers to tell them. You would engage them virtually. You would have panel discussions. You would have information given seminars. You could do a straight lecture. These are some promotional things. WhatsApp could take a flyer and tell them to zoom in somewhere to get the details. I want you to think, because we don't want, when we are marking, when we see some look or something, we know everybody has a social media, so we don't give you nothing. We give it to the student.
So it could be like, you know, an attention grabber, for example, you give them something that they would like in return, they can come and listen to a better idea that you can produce.
They can come and listen, what, son? What they must come and listen to? Yeah, talk to me.
Let me see. If you're supposed to like say a certain type of shirt or item or jewelry was being presented, you can present that as an attention grabber. For example, people like Wi-Fi, for example. And even in times like this, you could have a live feed of your presentation, and then you could get an attention grabber, something that would like grab people to, you know, say, let me think about this. Let me go ahead and try it, you know?
Yeah, but when you write that for us, son, the first thing, when you write that for us, the first thing we said, so what is this attention grabber? You know that a rhetorical question is a attention grabber? So that is what I'm trying to tell you. Put the word there. You see what I'm saying, son? Put the word down so that we are sure of what you're talking about. We don't have to guess. And you know, sometimes when we are marking your papers, we call you and we say, what do you mean by that? We can't call you. We can't call you. We have to look now and say, I wonder what he's talking about. And from we wonder you don't get the mark.
So it's more of a straightforward thing, you know, get to the point.
Details. Details. You have to give us details, son, for us to give you those marks. And we have the marks because understand that CAPE is really selling a product. The more I'm going to pass, the better it is for us. You understand? So you need to be specific. You need to be specific. How are you going to promote? So you say online communication. Listen, my children, I am older than Noah's and his cousin. You understand me? So if I am marking and I see some things, I have to make sure if you are making sense to me. So you tell me online communication, and then you go for the social networks. So me say, what? I want name Twitter. You understand? Because you've named it as different from Facebook. You have named it as different from Skyping. You have named it as totally different from blogs. A lot of the things that I know in terms of online is my students tell me. You have websites. Some of you have your own website already. And then you have the good old email. So you need to show me how you are promoting and get your marks. Because once you go online, you are going to say it's easy to disseminate information. See, one little one, she was at one workshop before, and the information she wanted and she didn't get it. So she asked for it. Did you see what Andre did? Him just said, give me your email address. Whoops, she get it. And there's almost 180 of you almost are here. And the moment there is something that is to come, you get it, whoops. So you use your knowledge, sons. You use your knowledge. But understand that an important program like this, before 2020, would call for a town hall meeting, a face-to-face meeting, a parent-teachers association meeting, a meeting of the University of the Guild, But they didn't say university, they said grade 12. So you're a coordinator, you're a principal. This is an important meeting, but in light of the fact that there are limited options for face-to-face meeting, you go online. You go online and provide all the information. Now, that is promotional. But go back up at top there, gentlemen. It says give 3 different types of rhetorical appeal. What are rhetorical appeals? And you know the word rhetorical from rhetorical question.
Yes, miss. Is to allow them to question themselves, to generate other ideas.
No, that is what you say it does. Me ask you what is it?
Miss?
What are you going to answer with when they ask you about rhetorical appeals? Is that a familiar thing for everybody online? Well, I want to let you know that less than half the cohort who did this could answer that section. They left it out or them put some kind of rhetorical question. Me never know, so you have 3 different kind of rhetorical question. It says appeal. Appeal.
Miss, would it be like ethos, pathos, and logos?
All right, so you just go look for it because you're not even pronouncing them right. You just looked it up. If you knew, you would be familiar with it and you would have called them right. But I want for you to go back to your persuasive writing that you did from about 4th form. Some of you were introduced to persuasive writing in, say, about 2nd form, 3rd form. And I'm sure by the time you got to 5th form, you were writing with it. And your teacher might have looked. Some of you, maybe you missed it somewhere, that particular technique. And then when you came to 6th form, you were exposed to it. But we always told you that English literature comes from Greece. All right, Aristotle and Socrates and men like these, our Enlightenment period came from the Greece. Now, Aristotle devised a triangle in which he said that these were rhetorical appeals that you use to get to persons. And the appeals spoke to you of logos, ethos, and pathos. And those are Greek terms. But logos, I said to some students, unless you can't be too young to remember that there was a ship that came to Jamaica 2 different times. I think it went to either Montego Bay or Ocherius first, and then it came to Kingston. This is a ship that travels the entire world. And all it has are books. Books and books and books. From babies can't read to university. The ship is called the Logos. Logos means words. In the Bible, you have Logos. And it comes from the Greek terms, all right? That means words. So when you have the triangle, you have one side of the triangle, one of the base, is called Logos. And this is where you make the appeal logically through words. You tell them things. You tell them, you use words to get to them. All right, so you tell them about the money that they can make. You tell them how their children will gain experience. You tell them how they would be a fine set to represent Jamaica. You tell them everything that they want to hear. Tell them a lady is going to say, it's me one son, or it's me one little girl. She never leave the house yet. Convince them of their safety. Tell them that It's not free for all. That tell them that they're going to have rules. Tell them. That's the logos. Tell them things that will appeal to their hearing. Now, when they hear it, then you're going to have pathos. They are going to feel a response. And they are going to know, said, all right, me not so agree with the traveling, but you're sure that somebody is going to be in charge? And you say, yes, man, all the principals and the guidance counselors and the social workers, who know sure, say nothing not going to do my picnic, who know sure, and so they want for you to tell them things, to convince them emotionally. They will cry and say, Lord, another whole 3 months and some of me are going to lose my picnic. And then you're going to say, but they're going to come back. They can't stay, they can't run off. And when they come back, their school fee will already be paid. And when my little girl is so shy, says, can you imagine how she's stepping boldly? Self-confidence she has developed. What a sense of pride you have when you say your daughter is among the 150 who represented Jamaica in Guatemala on their travel program. Yes, man, that's the response to your logos. Now, after you feel that you reached there now, somebody's saying, yes, me here want to say, but how we sure say what you're not saying is true? Oh, we sure? You say, but lady, I am just coming back. See, my vice principal was there for me. Here are 4 persons who are sharing testimonials. Look in my hand. This is a trophy that I carried back for Jamaica. And if you check with the university, my fees are paid. All the school officials are supporting this program. All the information you want, everything, look at what we tell you. Look if there's anything that is missing. And so that is your ethos. So your logos is what you're telling them about it, providing all the facts. The pathos is how you appeal to their emotion and they get the response. And your ethos is the credibility, is the proof of the pudding. Is having some persons having, sometimes when they're having these pictures about weight loss, they show you a person that is 600 pounds. And then they draw like something and say, drink vanish. And your weight will vanish away. And then they show you a picture of a little person small like a pencil. That's proof. All right? Then if the program has been going for 8 years and you have somebody who come back and then you say, we have nobody who has suffered an illness. Nobody who has had an accident. Those are things that help to strengthen. That is what they mean by the rhetorical appeals. What you tell them, how you tell them, and how. Gentlemen, ladies, you lose a lot. It's the first 3 they ask you for. And you see it's only 300 essays, 300 words in this essays. And they say they want 3 rhetorical appeal, they want 3 promotional strategies, and they want 1 language register. Now you have 5 registers, and I went through them in the first one.
Excuse me, Miss?
Yes, Peter.
Miss, before you continue, Miss, I realized that when you were explaining the rhetorical appeals, Miss, you kind of added some things. I'm not sure if you were just doing them for examples, Miss, but I wanted to ask, can you add information that wasn't in the question or they didn't give you to, beef up your essay to say
Baby, you see this one,
Miss.
you see module 3, you must give them the information.
Okay, Miss.
Yeah,
Miss, they can make up information and say 50% of students, 100%.
Yes, man. You probably wouldn't say 100%. You probably wouldn't say 100% because they don't wonder about the credibility.
You can
But
lie.
you could say 100% of the students who went came back with a pay package. Yeah, you could have get away with that. Remember that when we are writing, we make up statistics, but it have to sound like it can go so. We can't stretch it too much, but it must sound realistic.
Realistic line.
Yes, man. You couldn't go say, at the end of this program, all of them will graduate with a first-class degree. I lie. They're not going to graduate with a first-class degree. But they will be financially stable. They would have made some connections that could continue to contribute to their professional development. You just have to know, baby, look where it says, promote this program, discuss the plan of action that you have. What plan you're going to tell me if you don't make up something? But you have to make up something based on what the program does. And that is why I asked how many persons knew that a program like this existed. Because if you had some background information, you're good to go. Go ahead, Simone.
Excuse me, so when they say 3 different types of rhetorical appeals, they're talking about one of each of the logos, ethos, and pathos?
Yes, man. And it's 3 of them because I don't leave them anywhere.
3 of each?
No, they say 3 different types. So the 3 different types of rhetorical appeal are the 3 I told you.
Oh, thank you.
Right. But you know what happened? When our teachers teach persuasive writing, they just teach it. They probably don't even remember to tell you that this is a big deal. It's a big deal that we get. And as early as they start to teach persuasive writing at about 3rd form or grade 9, these words are supposed to be coming into your school experience. Because you know them, you know what they do. You just don't know the term. And when they put rhetorical appeal, you very well know that you must use words, but you never know that's the logos they're talking about. So I really wouldn't want, one of my purposes is to make sure that nothing surprises you in any one of these exams. Nothing surprises you. At least you must say, me hear that already somewhere, Me hear that already somewhere. All right? Okay. Now, which of the registers do you think a situation like this would be most suitable? Which one of the registers? I gave you 5. Huh?
Formal register.
No, that can be used, but it's not the ideal one.
Conversational.
There is none called conversational.
Casual?
Casual, no, man.
Consultative.
Is the owner just I call them. But consultative, that is the one that is going to make you ask all the questions. You think your parents could be invited to a meeting and then they don't have a barrage of questions? You have to have good answers. When you come tell them about them children, your children can't go travel. Why? The first thing them have, when you say, all right, I'm going to get there, I'm going to deal with it. So what about where my son is going to live? Or where my daughter, who's going to look after her? All and well, you can come and tell me that it's a wonderful program. But who can guarantee that nothing will happen to my daughter? How late will they be on the road? Will their money be paid to them up there? Or will it be sent home in a bank? How do I know somebody won't hold them up and take them away? Source a question. And if you're only talking to the parents, you're dead. So, yes, you're going to use the formal register, but that is not the register that is going to take control. It's a consultative. They are going to consult you for information, for promise that their children are going to be fine. They are going to want reassurance from you that yes, the money is good, but what about it? Suppose my child takes sick in the night. Where is Who is going to be responsible? Who from your school going? Can I call my child any hours? Will they have access to roaming? And stuff like that. So we need to make sure that we understand that this is a question and answer situation. If you choose to go with just the students, them are going to ask you, because they must say, yeah, boss, me like it. But tell me, if me go up there, I not like it, me can't come back. They are going to ask you. So your best register is consultative, whether it's for the students or for the parents. Yes, I hear the question coming. Go right ahead.
Miss, so one of my issues with Module 3 is I don't know who to write. I know what to write, but I don't know how to write it because it's like they're asking me to write an essay in a speech that's supposed to be talking to people at the same time. So how would you write? Would you like say, would you like answer the questions that they probably might ask you? Or would you like, I don't know how to write.
All right, so let's look at this one that they are asking us. All right, they say I must write an essay. I am going to make sure that in my essay, I have an introduction. And my introduction is going to tell you what I'm writing about, but I'm also going to allow you to know that I'm going to be answering all of these. So let us say they say I must, I'm a representative, and I'm going to discuss the program. So I would start, in order to promote the Travel and Earn program, as a student or as a recent participant, I would arrange for both parents and students to be introduced to the program. Initially, I would use 3 different formats of appeal. My rhetorical appeal would be logos, through which I will share all the information through attractive words. I would let them know, and then I tell them some of the things. Now, remember, say I'm going 300 words in them. So I would have to have a plan as to what I'm going to put in. All right? So after I tell them about using my appeals to tell them, I would also now move on after doing that. Now, in order for them to show interest in the program, face-to-face communication could be made normally, but in this period of pandemic, online platforms would be used. Platforms such as, and we go on and go on. These platforms allow for quick dissemination of information as close as possible to us face-to-face, and it will give the forum where persons can ask questions. In light of this, the register would normally be formal in sort of getting the information, but because everybody wants to know about the program, the register of choice would likely be consultative register. Parents would want to know about the safety and the benefits of the program. Students would want to know how is it that they sign up and so on. Therefore, a catch line would be made in terms of a slogan, and persons will be invited to join us through blogs and so on. You understand what I'm saying, son? I'm just going from the top of my head, but I'm creating my essay and I'm answering everything that they're asking me for. So when I start my essay, I will say what my essay is about. Then when I start to tell them how I'm going to be the appeal, they start to tick. First, let's say I mention logos. Then I remember no more, so I lose 2 marks. Then when I get to my promotional strategies, I get the 3 marks. I'd get a 3 for that. And then when I get to once I mention my strategies, I am going to have a cover sentence to tell them that it will work. But in the meantime, I have to make sure that the essay is not running away to be 500 words. So what is it that I need to put in my essay? I need an introduction to say what I am talking about. I also need to let them know what appeal I'm going to. So I'm going to make emotional appeal. That's my pathos. I'm going to make my appeal. Pardon? That was
Good
a
evening,
question.
everyone.
That was a question for me?
No, it's not a question, but more of a statement.
Go ahead.
Probably with the question that the gentleman asked, he was saying that they're asking him to write a speech in an essay format. But probably what he should be reminded of in the case of this question is that he is proposing what he is going to do and not necessarily writing the speech itself for this particular question. So he's basically just telling them what he's going to do.
Yeah, but if you look right, if you look at the instructions, because the instructions only come after they say in an essay, you know.
Yes, I understand that.
Yeah, no, it's I'm pointing to. So okay. You see, son, what she's reinforcing is the fact that what they're saying is that write an essay, discuss the plan. Tell me what you're going to do. It's not that I want the speech. They've asked you in some essays, they ask you for a speech. Some question, they say, write the speech you would give to a group of graduates. That time is the speech. That time you have to open with your greetings. That time you have got to be aware of your audience. That time you're going to have to know what is it that you are telling them. All right?
Okay, Miss Lee, Miss, a question.
Go ahead.
Hypothetically speaking.
Just a little louder, baby.
Oh, can you hear me now? Okay, Miss, hypothetically speaking, let's say we use a poster. Miss, would we have to like outline what exactly would be on the poster? For instance, the pictures that we're using and for instance, maybe a catchphrase or the attention.
Miss, you have 300 words. Maybe you have 300 words. So what you would say is highly decorated posters with pictures of scenes abroad to appeal to the sense of sight and so on. You can't tell me that there will be a man on it and there will be a picture of the bedroom that are the bedrooms that are offered for students. No, okay, you describe, it's like the module 2 essay where you say brightly colored, you know, with information, relevant information. And the poster for me should only have the information of where they can go to get the details. So the poster is an attention grabber that is going to say, check on Zoom. I can't tell them all the information on one poster out the road. And maybe as young people, you just take out your phone and take a picture of the poster and go home, go read it. But don't spell out everything. Just make sure. That's why I was rubbing in for you the summary. I was pushing for you the concepts of the summary writing. All right?
Okay, Miss, thank you.
You're welcome, love. Any other question on this? All right, now I'm just going to show you another nature of a question. This was a 2019 question. We didn't have any in 2020. But I'm going to just ask you to look at this one. It's a possible question. Yeah. All right. Just look at this. And I'm basically asking you to look at what they ask you to do. It says that you are the president of Interfaith College Fellowship. This is an organization which aims to encourage students and faculty to join efforts to assist the homeless people in your town. Here are the two groups that you are going to be addressing: students and faculty. Faculty are your teachers. Here again, this essay asks 300 words. It says, what is your proposal for the campaign? In an essay, two types of strategies that will appeal to both students and teachers. They ask you again for registers, and this time they ask you for a timetable. How are you going to get this done in what period of time? Now, if you are somebody who, when you drive past on the road, somebody beg you something, and you just say, move from the old criminal you have to go think twice now what you would do, because here is a situation that is in every country in the world. Here is a situation that is a current situation for governments. What they're saying, students in sixth form, tell us what you think. This is current event. You should have an idea of how you treat these people. So if you don't know, how are you going to convince students to join you? How are you going to convince teachers to be a part of your club? If you're a key clubber, you are good to go. If you are one of those students who you work in the outreach ministries of your school service clubs, then you know how to do this. You're in a school, so your students and your teachers would be at a devotion. That is one strategy. You have to put something by the faculty room. You have to offer students some incentive. You have to have an after-school campaign or something like that. You have to make sure that your school magazine carries something. You have to start from September if you plan to do something in December. That's why they're asking you for a timeline. How is it that you are going to get the students interested or the teachers interested? And then when you're talking to the teachers, what is the register? When you're talking to the students, do you want students from lower school right up to sixth form? Do you want them to be in different groups? Or are you only targeting fifth formers and sixth formers? Are you targeting fourth form to sixth form? Or are you targeting just staff and sixth form? These are things that you would need to put in your essay. You would need to know, students. You would need to know. You are asked, and you must be prepared to answer what you are asked. Section 3 asks you about current event, things that are common to every Caribbean country. They would not ask you about a special problem in Jamaica because the students in Suriname probably wouldn't know what to write. They will ask you about a common problem. Wow. I'm going to open for about 5 possible questions, and then I will close the session. So 5 persons can ask questions. If there's anything in the chat, I'm going to ask that somebody relays so we can address it. Well, question 1, anybody with a question? No. Question 2, anybody with a question? No. Question 3.
Hi. Excuse me, miss.
Yes, I hear a question, a possible question.
Yes. Does faculty mean university or secondary school?
Faculty means staff. Your faculty is your teaching staff. But we tend to use the word as departments. To which faculty do you belong? But I work at a school where the staff room is the faculty room. But faculty belongs to staff.
And when they say,
yes, I'm hoping that it wouldn't throw off anybody if they saw it, you know?
And when they say on campus, that means secondary school as well?
Yes, ma'am. Com Studies is directed at students at grade 12. Adults and everybody. It's like when you do English, adults do the subject. All people do the subject. But the CXC aims at a graduating class of fifth form. So their address is usually that audience. So when we are marking sometimes, the moment we meet an adult who is taking the exam, we know. Because that adult usually take an opposite side from the student. That adult forgets to write as a student. It doesn't trouble the content, but we know from the tone. But our primary target are you who are in school. So the language belongs to you at your grade 12 level.
Okay, Miss. And another question. How much penalty is there for if you write above the word limit, but you have all of the things that you need to put?
Usually we stop where we are supposed to stop. So if you have a lovely conclusion beyond 300, we mark you down as having no conclusion. We stop where the word limit stops you. And usually students are coming up with a good, strong ending. So they lose the mark. It's like when your SBA goes in, if it's more than it's supposed to be, they take 10% of the marks. So word limits are important. Any other question?
Even if will there be another session?
A little louder, please.
Will there be another session?
For Com Studies?
Yes, ma'am.
No, baby. No, I have lined up. This I wanted to just reach everybody as possible. There are about 3 paid sessions that other persons have asked for me to do closer to the exam. I can send out the information at that time, but I know that there will be a cost. And they want to go closer to the exam. So I know for sure, like for the 28th, when you have the multiple choice paper, there will be a meeting the evening before for the multiple choice, because we are way down in July for that. But for now, this is where we break off from our session. All right. I want to just use this opportunity to tell you thanks. All right. My contact number is 821-1970. 821-1970. If there's a question, I perhaps would be able to answer if you send it straight to me. All right?
821-1907, right?
No, man, let me say it again. I don't know if somebody can. I have people online. Put it in the chat for me. 821-1970. That's right. That's right.
Miss, excuse me, Miss Samantha is asking, Miss, for the timetable question, Miss, how is it exactly that you approach it? Do you actually like rule up a timetable and stuff? For questions?
I'm sorry, baby. I'm not hearing clearly. Go again and ask me.
For the timetable question C, it was, do you like rule up a timetable literally? Like, how exactly do you approach that question? How would you write it?
They say to give them the timeline. Then basically I would say, the campaign for new members would start in the new school year in September, and given that the term would end in December, then by October, persons who sign up will be properly trained, and then proposal for treating the homeless and gifts and so on would be decided on for November, as December would most likely be the time in the holidays where the homeless persons would be addressed with food, clothing, or something like that. That's what I mean by a timeline.
Oh, okay, Miss, thank you.
No problem. No problem.
I mean, so one last question from me.
Yes, sir.
This was in the chat. This was in the chat from a little while back. So
All right,
it says, my teacher said that we should stick to Creole and standard English when asked about dialectal variation, because the varieties could be different in other countries. Should we use Mesolek, Basalek, and Aralek?
What? Your teacher said that you must stick to
Creole and standard English when asked about.
Yeah, that is what I said to you. What I said to you is that because every Caribbean country has its own, then you could use the standard English by saying it's Caribbean Standard English or Caribbean Creole. You understand? It is Jamaica alone that's called their Creole patois. So we don't write patois. We say that the choice is Mesolect, or the choice is, and it's, the Mesolect is going to come to us for Creole. But we don't name, you know that every country have name for, like our Creole name patois. So we don't go in there go right says patois, because patois is the name of the Jamaican Creole. There's another Creole that is called Creole, Kreoyl. So different countries have names for their particular Creole. So you don't give the name of your particular Creole. You say that they use Creole. So I'm not deviating from what your teacher is saying. It's just that if you look at particular pieces, if you look at particular pieces, like when they ask you for the variety that you would use to talk, then you know that your variety is going to be either the acrylect or the mesolect. All right? All right. It's about time that I tell you goodbye. I'm going to catch my breath and move on to another program. But I want to thank you. I want to thank you for being here, and I want to give you all the encouragement that you need to make sure that you give it your best shot. Thank you so very much, Bianca. Very lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jersoon. Kashmir, Galaxy 12, Kayla Calvert, Ashley, Natalia, Gabrielle, Janelle, from Jam to Everybody, Bianca, Jada, Gabrielle, so many of you. Thank you so very much. You are highly, highly appreciated. Thank you. Thank you for making this a success. Thank you so very much, Allison. Thank you, Sonique. Gabrielle, oh, Gabrielle, my Gabrielle, thank you. Okay. Denisa, oh, I'm just seeing the names now. Thank you. Ashley, thank you. Janelle, bless you. You're, oh man, you're great, good. Brianna, Janelle, oh man. Hey guys, you are here, good. Thank you so much, Bianca. Thank you, Kasana. You are welcome. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much. And oh, big up, son, big up. Thank you, David. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Ah, thank you, son. Thank you. Yes, thank you. I will do that. I will be home safely. Yes. Thank you, T. Thank you. Bless you.
All right, Mrs. Lee.
Yes, please.
Just to note to everyone that the link has been sent in the chat for the full version of tonight's presentation on our YouTube channel. So they can, so even after this session has ended, you can still go back to that link and see the full session.
All right. Thank you, Andre. Thank you so much, everyone. All right, Biggie. Thank you so much. You are welcome. You are welcome.
What's the name of the channel? Because the link is just lost in the chat.
So it's the Church of God of Prophecy, Jamaica. That's the YouTube channel. Church of God of Prophecy, Jamaica.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Krista Gay. Thank you. You're welcome, Kendall. You're welcome.